All right, guys, so I'm going to pack up the Tombos that I'm bringing. This looks like a lot of markers. I'm actually going to further go through and remove colors, but the main thing is I want to make sure I have a variety of different tones. So like light, medium, dark, neutrals, some vibrant ones. You don't have to have all the colors. I just think it's important to have some definitely lighter values, medium values, and darker values, but then also a variety of tones that are more neutral. So, and they don't have to all be the same color. And so once I have kind of nailed down my colors, I'm going to use my daughter's hairbands, mainly because that's all I have right now. But rubber bands or even hair ties are great. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clump these Tombos together, kind of by color. You could really do it however you want, but I figured like in a pinch, I could even just kind of grab this little cluster while I'm out and about sketching, since I have lots of different variety of shades and things in there. So I'm gonna do it with my, let's see, I'm gonna collect my browns. Do not need to bring all these. All right, it's like a draft. I really like to have them kind of bundled like this. That way they're not all mixed together. And if I know the color that I'm going for, I will just grab them. And I like to use Ziploc bags for art supplies. Number one, in case I'm using a supply that could potentially explode. It's in a waterproof bag, which is great. And I will blame this on ADD, but I feel like when things are out of sight, they're out of mind. So if I can't see what I'm looking for, yeah, it doesn't exist and I totally forget it's there. And I also just have a little bit of a difficult time, like, I don't know, finding everything. Last year, I put all of my markers like in one, I just kind of have a variety of pencil bags that I packed everything in. And I'll be honest, and I even labeled them, markers, pencils, so on and so forth. I could never find what I needed. So I still might bring them just as like maybe flattened even for like day traveling. But I actually really prefer just bringing them in bags. This is just what I'm doing. Please feel free to do what you think works best for you. Even, I don't know, go on YouTube and see what other people are doing. I feel like I've done that in the past. And then I have done what they've suggested and it did not work for me. So, yeah, do what works best for you. I'm gonna stick it right here. And again, this just helps me with like, if I want to sketch and I get decision fatigue, I can just grab one cluster, and monochromatic is always going to look lovely. So you really can't go wrong when you group your supplies by color. So this feels like a lot to kind of tackle all at once, like the swatching and the decision making and the packing. So you definitely do not have to be illustrating or swatching your colors as you go, but it does help. And it's kind of like a nice way to get yourself back into art making. And because the nature of what we're doing of like eliminating and trying out your supplies is kind of messy and imperfect, it's actually a really great way to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off, and just dive into your sketchbook and you can kind of start playing around with color and how things work and operate. In terms of like layout, what I'm doing is I don't really have a plan. Kind of start with the swatching. I do want to kind of consider, I like to illustrate the supplies that I am bringing. And I kind of wanted them to be unified in how they looked on the page. So I just decided to grab I have a watered down paintbrush. This is just a Pentel water brush, and I added some India ink into the water so it makes a nice gray. And then I've just been playing around with, this is just like a Sharpie roller pen. It is not permanent, but I do really like it. I have a tendency, I buy microns and then I always decide I hate them, so I'm not using them. But my pens are always changing, and it just really depends on like whatever mood I'm in. So I've just been doing these really simple illustrations. They don't need to be detailed. In fact, I want you to actually think of it more like a cartoon, because this is just, again, a way of like breaking in our sketchbook. And if you are a former scrapbook lover like myself, this is a way to document our trip. And so you can absolutely also be adding in collage supplies if you want to cut labels of, materials. Well, there are really no rules here. So I'm going to continue swatching my drawing supplies, my pens. I was going to originally do like colored pencils here and marker on this side, but I'm realizing how many pens I have and pencils that I'm going to bring. And I'm trying to decide, like, do I put my eraser on this page? I definitely have to put my white in. And then I have my fancy pens. I want to get these guys in here. So there's a lot. And maybe instead of colored pencils, maybe that'll be like it's another page. And again, like, sorry to interrupt myself, but this is documenting our entire trip to Slovenia, and it's totally fine. In fact, I want you to start gobbling up the pages in your sketchbook, because the less we think of this as like it has to be perfect, the harder it is to break through the perfection and just get into it. Okay, so if you make a mistake, don't you dare rip anything out. I challenge you to think about, like, well, how could I turn this into to not quote Bob Ross, but to quote him, a happy accident? Or also, what can you do to just kind of like make it work for the rest of the page? And maybe that means like intentionally making even more mistakes. Like, I was squeezing out my water brush because it was clogged and it made a huge gush of ink and it blobbed over here. So then I just decided, all right, maybe I'll try to make it like a value scale. And I even put on there like, oops, with a little arrow just to kind of say like, oh yeah, this exploded and it's totally not a big deal. So I'm going to kind of keep going on this. I'll put it in a time-lapse mode to make it a little bit shorter. And also when I'm thinking about layout, I might just kind of start drawing something, and then if there are these little like nooks and crannies, little spots, I'll probably add in some little fillers, maybe with some just simple designs or stars or color play. And also we can think about with layout, you want to kind of think of it as like a puzzle piece. Imagine all these puzzle pieces neatly fitting together. And if you were to gradually like separate them, you want to try to have equal spaces. So that is something like spacing is important. So like I have a pretty large gap here, but everything else has like similar spacing. So I might go back and do something here just again to kind of create that similar spacing. But also you don't have to be afraid of, you can also leave empty space. I have a hard time with that. Like I feel like every single bit of white paper needs to be filled in, and it most certainly does not. Really quick, let's talk about you know, getting over to Slovenia. I would love for you to embrace our art retreat the second you leave your house. So heading to the airport and, you know, transferring planes, being on the airplane. I want you just to dive into art making, even if it feels scary. So what I would recommend is using your Quell case as something that can hold, you know, your travel art set. And right now I just have a bunch of colored pencils in here. So I am going to go ahead and stock this up with just some of my staples that I know I'm most likely going to use when I am traveling. So let's go ahead and pack my travel case. I'm going to bring my paints. So I got that. This will fit in here. I want to go ahead and pack something to dry off my paintbrush with. Maybe just stick that in there. I know I'm going to want to paint, so I'm going to pack a water brush. I'm going to make sure that it is filled inside. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and pack the other areas. So one of the things I want to make sure that I want to have a pen. So I just added ink to this Tombow fountain pen. I am still very much getting used to it. So I figured I could practice. This is more of a thin monoline. So I'm going to pack this, and then I'm also going to pack, probably I'll do this pen. So versatile, and I can get some thick lines, some gray tones, and then I can do some thin lines with my fountain pen. And now for the others, kind of trying to decide if you're not super comfortable or familiar with Tombow markers, you could use this as an opportunity to play and practice, or you can just stick with something that you feel more comfortable with. When choosing colors, there's tons of ways we can kind of go about this. I happen to have, that I'll be bringing, I have these really great cards that allow you to kind of pull a color palette from it. And this is great because it's a mix of like different values and tones. So we've got some darker colors here, we have some middle tones, and then we have some lighter tones. And then that way, if I only pack these colors or versions of these colors in my Quell case, everything I'm going to make is going to be in these colors, which actually, it feels limiting, but is really unifying with how your sketchbook will look if you only pick certain colors. So I'm going to go ahead and pack some colors that fill this color palette. Okay, so I've got colored pencils, I've got my markers, and I have a teeny bit of room for a couple other things. I think I am definitely gonna put a pencil sharpener and a eraser. I do have a larger eraser that I stick in here, but for now, I don't want to waste a spot there. So I'm gonna put a little eraser in here. I like to always have white available, so I'm going to put a white paint pen in here or a white colored pencil. I don't go anywhere without a white Prismacolor because they just are a lifesaver. If there's a color that I really just tend to want to gravitate to that's not in here, I usually put that in. For me, I'm obsessed with this color. I haven't found exactly the comparable color in Prismacolor. 135 with Karen Dash. It's been super well loved. The most similar color is probably this blue violet. Also just so beautiful. I love these so much. Also, I think I am gonna lately I've been doing sketching with like a taupe pencil, so you can't really see my pencil lines. So maybe I will put this in here. Okay, This is how I'm gonna travel. I kind of have already swatched my colors for my day of. I'm gonna go ahead. I already spilled ink on this sketchbook, which I could be mad about, but then I'm also like, oh, it just looks even more well loved. So. All right, so this is my travel set. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pack the rest of my supplies. Anything that could potentially explode due to cabin pressure, I would definitely pack in its own individual container. Anything in, and this is how you're gonna know if it's gonna explode or it could explode, is if there is like a pocket of air. Anything that makes this sound, basically, you're gonna want to pack in here. I have a different type of white pen, so I'm not gonna bring that, but you kind of know what I mean. Keep packing up my pencils. This is just to show you how type B I am. I thought I had some rubber bands here at my studio, and I do not, but I do have a ton of hair ties. So we are gonna go for the hair tie. Okay, so I'm gonna grab these guys. These are my pens. One more, a really fine point pen. And I'll put my glue in here. And then my other two fountain pens. This is my water cup that I'm going to bring. I also have a collapsible one. I'm going to bring this just in case I decide to use it or if somebody else wants to use it. I'll put that in here. So I pretty much have everything consolidated into 2 Ziploc baggies. If you want to put this, bag in a bag in a bag, you can do that. Or again, totally up to you. If you have separate compartment bags and you're going to keep track of where everything is, definitely do something like that. I think I might even bring this one with me, just as we have a little bit more. If we are out and about traveling, if I want to have a little bit more space, I'll put some extra supplies in here. So it's a good idea to bring, a couple empty bags. That way you can make some game time decisions. But this way you can see where all your supplies are and you will not lose track of them. I will most likely carry my art supplies in my backpack, just because, I don't know, I could probably obviously fit them in my suitcase, that's the word, but I want to think about what I'm going to be bringing as with my travel on, so I'll definitely be putting my quill case in here. I'm bringing my computer because I'll be working and things like that, but hopefully you do not have to or want to. This book bag, I love it. I actually just got it off of Amazon and it fits tons of things, but sometimes for me, more compartments equals more spaces to lose things. Story of my life. So I'm going to put my quill case here, and then just to try to keep myself a little bit more organized, I am going to put probably all of my extra supplies in this front compartment. That way I know all my supplies are here. Also am bringing, I forgot to pack this in my bag. This was an old Band-Aid container and I thought it would be such a cute tin to bring some Neocolors. So I'm bringing a few Neocolor pastels. Again, just kind of a mix of dark, medium, light tones. And kind of, I don't know. I don't really know, but I'm not bringing everything because, again, limitation definitely helps. All right, and then just packing up the rest of my stuff. I got my paints in there. I'm putting everything in the front compartment of my book bag, and I am pretty much ready to go. I cannot wait to see you guys in just a week or so.